Here are 16 practice problems on linear equations in two variables. As per usual, I'll link these questions and the answer key in the description, so if you want to work ahead, you can go ahead and do so. But if you need a little bit more help, I will be going through every single question. Or if you need further clarification, feel free to ask me. Anyways, let's get started with question number 1. The graph of that equation is a line in the xy plane where a and k are constants. If the line contains those points, what is the value of k? We can actually solve this using regression in desmos, so let's go ahead and type these points into desmos. First up, you want to click this plus sign in the top left corner to insert a table. Then type in those points, -2, -6, and 0, -3. Now you want to type in the equation they give us, but with some small changes. So ax, now after any x, you want to put a 1. And then after any y, you also want to put a 1. And instead of an equal sign, you want to put a tilde. And now it actually tells us the values of a and k. A is 3 and k is -2. Now they ask us for the value of k, so k is -2, which means our answer will be a. Question number 2. For line h, the table shows 3 values of x and the corresponding values of y. Line k is the result of translating line h down 5 units in the xy plane. What is the x-intercept of line k? So here they tell us that it's a line, which means we can use linear regression in desmos. So first up, let's type those points into desmos. You want to click this plus sign in the top left corner here to insert a table, and now type in those points, 18,130, 23,160, and 26,178. Now the equation for linear regression is y1 tilde mx1 plus b. So you can tell it's literally just y equals mx plus b, but you add a 1 in front of the x's and the y's, and change the equal sign to a tilde. So here's the equation for line h, and I'm going to quickly rewrite this. So h of x for line h is equal to 6x plus 22. Now we know that line k is just line h translated down 5 units. So k of x is equal to h of x, which is line h, translated down 5 units will be -5. And now we can find out the x-intercept by, well, looking at the graph. And here we get the x-intercept is -2.833 repeating. Now they want our answer as a fraction, and we can actually convert this decimal into a fraction. All you have to do is type that in, -2.83, and now you want to type a bunch of 3's. And then you can click the fraction in the blue box to the left, and you get that the fraction is -17/6, which means our answer will be D. Question number 3. Line P is defined by that equation. Line R is perpendicular to line P in the xy plane. What is the slope of line R? Question number 3. Line P is defined by that equation. Line R is perpendicular to line P in the xy plane. What is the slope of line R? First up, let's find the slope of line P. Now there's actually a shortcut to do this. When a line is in standard form, which is ax plus by equals c, the slope is going to be -a over b. So the number in front of the x divided by the number in front of the y. So we go ahead and look at our equation up here. The number in front of the x, or a, is going to be 8. And the number in front of the y is 4. Now that could simplify down to -2/1. Then you should remember that a perpendicular slope will be opposite reciprocal. Opposite meaning the opposite sign. So this negative sign here would turn into a positive sign. And then reciprocal meaning you flip the fraction. So the 1 would go on top, and then the 2 would go on the bottom. So that would be 1/2. So our answer will be +1/2. That's the slope of line R. Question number 4. In the xy plane, line K intersects the y-axis at that point and passes through that point. If the point 20w lies on line K, what is the value of w? So here we have a line and 2 points, which means we can use linear regression. First up, you want to click this plus sign in the top left corner to insert a table. Then you want to type in your points, 0, -6, and 2, 2. Then the equation for linear regression is y1 tilde mx1 plus b. So here's line K. Now they're asking us to find the value of w. That's the y value of a point with an x value of 20. So let's go to where x is 20, and the y value of this point will be 74. which means that W is equal to 74. Question number 5. In the xy plane, line L passes through that point and is parallel to the line represented by that equation. If line L also passes through the point 3D, what is the value of D? Let's go ahead and write the equation for line L. The equation of any line is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. They tell us that line L passes through the point 0, 0, which is the origin. This also means that the y-intercept is going to be 0, so we know that b is equal to 0. Then they tell us that line P is parallel to this line right here. And you should remember parallel lines have the same slope. This means that line L will also have a slope of 8. Now that we have the equation for line L, we can find the value of D. Now you could put this into desmos, or you could just substitute this 3 into x, so you would get that y is equal to 8 times 3, which is equal to 24. So the value of D is 24. Question number 6. The graph of y equals f of x plus 14 is shown. Which equation defines function f? So here we know this line is the function f of x, plus 14, which means it's shifted up 14 units. So here in this line, the y-intercept is going to be at 2. Now to find the y-intercept of f of x, we would subtract 14 from this, or we would just do the opposite of this transformation right here. So 0, 2 minus 14 would be 0, negative 12. That means that the y-intercept of the function f is at negative 12. You should note that the equation of a line is y equals mx plus b, where b is the y-intercept, which means b should be equal to negative 12. Now if we look at our answer choices, the answer choice with negative 12 as b, or the y-intercept, is a, which means a is our answer. Question number 7. In the equation above, a and b are constants, and 0 is less than a, which is less than b. Which of the following could represent the graph of the equation in the xy plane? So here they tell us that a is greater than 0, so we can just call a 1. And also tell us b is greater than a, so we can call b 2. Now let's go ahead and type this and our equation into desmos. Alright, so I went ahead and typed everything into desmos, and now we have our line. You notice that the y-intercept is going to be at 1, which means we can instantly get rid of b, because the y-intercept isn't at 1. And you should also notice that the slope is less than 1. If you go ahead and calculate the slope by doing rise over run, you'll notice that the rise is negative 1 and the run is 2, which means our slope is negative 1/2. That means we can get rid of a, which has a slope of 1, and d, which has a slope of 2. That means our answer will be C. Now you might be thinking, okay great, it worked when a is 1 and b is 2. What about when they're different numbers? Well, we can go ahead and check that real quick. Let's set b equal to 5, because that's still bigger than a. And you notice that the y-intercept is still at 1. And if you go ahead and calculate the slope, the rise is going to be negative 1, and the run will be 5. So it's still going to be a slope smaller than 1. And if you keep increasing the value of b, the slope is going to get smaller and smaller. Now let's say we increase the value of a. The slope is still going to be less than 1, and the y-intercept will still be at 1. Question number 8. The points plotted in the coordinate plane above represent the possible numbers of wallflowers and cornflowers that someone can buy at the garden store in order to spend exactly $24 total on the two types of flowers. The price of each wallflower is the same and the price of each cornflower is the same. What is the price in dollars of one cornflower? Let's take a look at our graph. The number of cornflowers is on the x-axis, so we can set x equal to the price of cornflowers. Then, since the number of wallflowers is on the y-axis, we can set y equal to the price of wallflowers. Now we need to choose a point, and you technically could choose any point, but the easiest point will be this one right here, 16, 0. 16 is our x value, so that will go with our x, and 0 is our y value, so that will go with our y. And this will equal to $24. And I think you can tell why I chose this point, because now we don't even need to worry about the price of wallflowers because it's being multiplied by 0. We can just straight up solve for x by dividing both sides by 16. So x is equal to 24 divided by 16, which is 1.5. So the price of cornflowers are $1.5. Question number 9. The graph of that equation in the xy plane has an x-intercept at a0 and a y-intercept at 0b, where a and b are constants. what is the value of b over a? Now you could graph this in desmos, but it's honestly going to be easier to do it by hand first, and you'll see why soon. So let me go ahead and rewrite this equation. Alright, so we know it has an x-intercept at a0, so that means that the y value would be set equal to 0. Now we would just solve for x, and then x, or a, would be equal to negative 31 over 7. Then we know it has a y-intercept at 0b, where x would be equal to 0, so we can just cross this out, and then y would be equal to, or b, would be equal to negative 31 over 2. Now they're asking us for the value of b over a, so let's go ahead and put that into desmos. b is equal to negative 31 over 2, and then a is equal to negative 31 over 7, and this is why. If you graphed this, then it would have shown up as this really long decimal, and I have no idea how to make it turn into a fraction, so you would end up having to do it by hand anyways. Anyways, b over a is 3.5, or if you click this fraction in the blue box to the left, 7 over 2. That means our answer will be D. Question number 10. Line L in the xy plane is perpendicular to the line with the equation x equals 2. What is the slope of line L? First up, let me graph the line x equals 2. And you should remember that a vertical line will have an undefined slope, because its slope would be equal to 1 over 0, and anything divided by 0 is undefined. Then they tell us that line L is perpendicular, so that means its slope would be opposite reciprocal. Opposite meaning the opposite sign, so here there would be technically a positive sign, I guess. I mean, it's undefined, so I have no idea. And then it would turn into a negative sign, and then reciprocal would mean the 0 goes on top and the 1 goes on bottom. So that would be negative 0 over 1, and 0 divided by anything is just 0, so 0 also can't be negative. The answer is here. The answer is A. Question number 11. The table above shows the coordinates of 3 points on a line in the xy plane where k and n are constants. If the slope of the line is 2, what is the value of k plus n? So the equation of a line is y equals mx plus b, and we know that the slope, which is m, is equal to 2. Now let's go ahead and solve for b. To do that, we're going to use this point right here. So our y value, which is 7, is equal to 2 times our x value, which is 3, plus b. 2 times 3 is 6, so 7 is equal to 6 plus b is equal to 1. So that means that the equation of this table would be y equals 2x plus 1. Now to solve for k, we can plug in 11 for y. So I'm going to just do this in desmos instead. 11 is equal to 2x plus 1, and we get that x, or k, is equal to 5. Now let's solve for n, and we can substitute 12 in for x. Instead of n, we're going to put x is equal to 2 times 12 plus 1, and we get that x, or n, is equal to 25. Now k plus n is just 5 plus 25, which is 30, so our answer is 30. Question number 12. At a school fair, students can win color tokens that are worth a different number of points depending on the color. One student won G green tokens and R red tokens worth a total of 380 points. The given equation represents this situation. How many more points is a red token worth than a green token? So here if we look at our equation, we know that G is green tokens and R is red tokens. We know that each green token is worth 5 points and each red token is worth 45 points. So that means that 45 minus 5, a red token is worth 40 more points than a green token. Question number 13. To earn money for college, Avery works 2 part-time jobs, A and B. She earns $10 per hour working at job A and $20 per hour working at job B. In 1 week, Avery earned a total of S dollars for working at the 2 part-time jobs. The graph above represents all possible combinations of number of hours Avery could have worked at the 2 jobs to earn S dollars. What is the value of S? Let's go ahead and look at our graph. You notice that the number of hours at job A is on the x-axis, so we can set x equal to the wage at job A. Then on the y-axis is the number of hours at job B, so we can set y equal to the wage at job B. Now we need to choose a point, and it really doesn't matter what point you choose. I'm gonna just choose this point right here because it's kind of obvious, 15 and then 16. So that point's gonna be at 16, 0. 16 is our x value, so that's gonna go with the x. And then 0 is our y value, so that's gonna go with the y. And we know this is equal to s. Now we can just go ahead and completely get rid of this 0y because anything times 0 is just 0. And now we note that X is the wage at job A. And if we look at the information given to us, we know she earns $10 per hour working at job A. So we can substitute 10 in for X. 16 times 10 is equal to S. S is equal to 160, which means our answer will be B. Question number 14. The line with the equation, that equation, is graphed in the xy plane. What is the x coordinate of the x-intercept of the line? Let's go ahead and just put this in desmos. If you wanted to, you could also solve this by hand and would also be really easy. All you have to do is set y equal to 0. Now we get that our x-intercept is equal to 1.25. So I guess it's really up to you if you decide doing it by hand or putting it in desmos is faster. Question number 15. In the xy plane, line k is defined by that equation. Line j is perpendicular to line k and the y-intercept of line j is 0, 3. Which of the following is an equation of line j? Let's go ahead and rewrite line k in the form y equals mx plus b. And to do that, we can just subtract x from both sides. So line k would be equal to y is equal to negative x. Now we know that line j is perpendicular to line k. So that means that the slope of line j is going to be the opposite reciprocal. Opposite meaning that we're going to change this negative sign into a positive, and reciprocal meaning we're going to flip the fraction. Now technically, the slope of line k is just 1 over 1, so if you flip the fraction, it would still just be 1 over 1. Let's just go ahead and write it as x. Then we know that the y-intercept of line j is 0, 3, and the b value in y equals mx plus b is just the y-intercept. So that would be plus 3. Now if we look at our answer choices, they want our answer in the form ax plus by is equal to c. So let's go ahead and move the x over to the other side by subtracting x from both sides. We get that negative x plus y is equal to 3, and then they want the x to be positive, so let's go ahead and just divide the entire thing by negative 1, and we get that x minus y is equal to negative 3, which means our answer is D. Question number 16. How many liters of a 25% saline solution must be added to 3 liters of a 10% saline solution to obtain a 15% saline solution? Alright, that was a whole bunch of words, but let's go ahead and transfer all of that into numbers. Now you should remember that to convert a percent to a decimal, you move the decimal place 2 times to the left. So we would have 0.25, 0.1, and 0.15. Now they're asking us how many liters. So let's label liters as x, and we know that this 25% needs to be multiplied by x, or a certain number of liters. Then they tell us must be added, so we can put a plus sign right here. Then we know there's 3 liters of a 10% solution, so we can multiply the 0.1 times 3. And then they say to obtain, which means that these two added together should equal a 15% saline solution. But if you look at our previous terms, we have a concentration or decimal multiplied by the number of liters. So here we have 25% multiplied by x because we're trying to find how many liters. Here we have our concentration, 10% multiplied by number. We know it's 3 liters. So in our last part, we have our concentration of 15%, and now we need to multiply it by a number of liters as well. So what would be our number of liters? Well, it would just be x plus 3. And now we can just solve for x. I'm going to just put this in desmos. And we get that the value of x is equal to 1.5. Alright, that was 16 practice problems on linear equations in 2 variables. And I think you can tell, but these questions are really easy and also really similar to other things we've done. Now other than this last question, which was just a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo, most of the other questions were just linear regression, rewriting equations in standard form and y equals mx plus b, or just looking at graphs and interpreting them. So really, it's a lot similar to other skills we've already done. However, when I was looking through all the skills on the SAT, I realized I haven't covered linear equations in 2 variables, so I thought I might as well do it. Anyways, if there's anything you should remember, it's that you should remember the linear regression formula, y1 tilde mx1 plus b. You should remember the slope-intercept form y equals mx plus b. But I'm pretty sure you already got that down. We all passed algebra. And you should also remember that parallel lines will have the same slope, and perpendicular lines will have the opposite reciprocal slope. Alright, that's gonna be it. Good luck studying, and I'll see you